Hi, this is Julie Hornock with United in Autism. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited about who we have here today. We are in the master bedroom of some really fabulous people hanging out where they're most comfortable. So today I have Leah Rauch and her son Daniel. And the exciting thing about Daniel is that until about a year ago, he was basically locked in and had no way to talk and no way to share anything about his life, and they discovered typing. And when I heard her story, we've known them for a while, but when I heard what was happening, I had to come over and interview them, and because I think that you'll find this story incredibly exciting and full of a lot of hope. And so Daniel, I'm going to go ahead and switch it now. Daniel? Okay, Daniel, you are on video, so give us a little wave, or you can say, you want to say hi on your talker?
Go for it, Daniel. There you go.
So Daniel had no ability to communicate at all until a year ago, and they discovered typing. And now he basically has been in there the entire time, and he's able to talk with his mom, with other people. So he's now typing in his response.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for sharing with us. Daniel, I am so excited. I know you're very nervous, so I want you to know that it's no big deal and that we're all just super excited to communicate with you. So it looks like you're typing something now. I'll let you tell me that before I answer or ask any questions. So I know that everyone that's watching this will be super patient with the typing because they know and they're just excited to hear what you have to say. And after Daniel speaks with us, we're going to talk with Leah, his mom, and she is going to share with us his story. I think the hard thing must be for the peers to wait, right?
Yeah. And we haven't had a lot of practice really outside the family yet.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. I mean, you go straight from tapping with your family to tap into the world on the internet.
It's just a small jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got it.
Well, I love that he's able to communicate and share what he has in his head now, because I cannot even imagine how frustrating that must have been.
Better when there's no camera.
Oh, you're better when there's no camera. Well, guess what, buddy? Me too. So I wanted to say this is so fun that I get to come in their master bedroom and be where Daniel is most comfortable. Thank you for inviting me. Daniel, why don't you tell us something you enjoy doing? What do you enjoy doing?
Or whatever else you want to say.
Or if you want to tell us something else, I'm fine with whatever you want to say. No? You don't want to? Okay.
Yeah, you will in a minute.
Yeah. Do you want me and your mom to talk for a little bit? You got something?
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel's going to share with us what he's thinking, and then after this, we're going to go ahead and have Leah share his whole story, which I think is going to be such an encouragement to everyone who has a child, especially in this situation where they haven't been able to speak. And that this typing is giving him a voice. Do you mind if I look at your typing and watch you do it?
Yeah, go for it. Is that right, Daniel? Because you got it, bud.
It's a little hard to see on the computer.
Yeah.
But he types in the keyboard and then the words pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a really, really good speller.
Mm-hmm. It's nice for people to have an idea of what kind of keyboard you're using, Daniel.
Absolutely, it's nice. The iPads have done great things for our kids. And for so many reasons, but it's so exciting. Leah, how did it feel when the first time you heard him share a thought of his?
Well, I'll tell you in just a minute here. The first time he gave me an independent thought, totally spontaneous, was pretty gosh darn awesome. I'll always remember what it was. You got it, bud? And it was a lot of work getting there.
I'm sure. I mean,
And it's still work, but
he's almost 15 now and having all those years. This just started a year ago, right?
yeah, really less. Well, yeah, about a year. But a ton of progress in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
You still going? All right.
He's got a lot to say.
He really does. Yeah.
I think it's important to be where he's comfortable, and I know it's hard to be on camera. He's told us several times how nervous he is. But you're doing so well. It's hard for me to talk when I get on camera too.
You got it? You got it?
I love his moms, how we can anticipate what they're saying, and he knows you're anticipating the rest of his entire sentence.
We've had wonderful conversations about just about anything you can imagine, including even his thoughts on the world and God and really big stuff.
I think, yeah, that's incredible because you're doing great. I had a time where I took my daughter. She couldn't talk in preschool.
You got it?
And
I am glad to be able to tell my mom and dad all the things I want to say and feel and know and wonder about.
wow, thank you.
Can she do your fingers, Daniel? I don't know. Can you see his fingers from where you are?
So you're glad to be able to tell everyone what you think. I think that's fantastic. I'm glad you're able to tell. I cannot imagine how frustrating it must have been to be in there having all these thoughts and not able to share them.
Yeah.
Because you are as important as anyone else in this world, and we need to hear what you have to say about it. I was telling you about my, so she came back, she took me back to her, we went back to her preschool once she could talk, and I just wondered if she remembered anything, or she told me everything, like, this is where my locker was, this is my teacher, remember when we did this project, and it was, I didn't know that she was observing and hearing everything.
Everything is right.
And it was very, very eye-opening, because at first I worried, what had I said in front of her?
Absolutely.
What have I said that I didn't mean, or that out of frustration, or, and then secondly, it was like, oh my goodness, it was she was fully aware the whole time, even when she wasn't looking at us, which I thought was crazy cool. But it, also for other parents to know that, and
it's very important. And this is very nice, Daniel. Very, very nice. People are going to think I'm paying you to say this.
Well, we know it's his thoughts. He's typing it.
Like there's money in it afterwards. You got it.
I'm excited to hear.
Very nice, Daniel. You can see he types long sentences now.
I know,
Right.
It's amazing. Well, and before when he was answering some of my questions, it was detailed.
Very detailed.
And not just short sentences, it was sentences with details, and it was very impressive. And I think the details is what makes it, the intricate thoughts are always there, and the understanding is there.
Yeah, when we first started, we were just trying to type single words for stuff that we really, really wanted.
Yeah.
And now I see these beautiful, complex, compound sentences. And it's amazing to think how far we've come.
Well, and it's amazing to think how much further he's going to go, and how exciting it's going to be for him when he gets to share more.
Nice, Daniel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And more. Uh-huh.
I appreciate you taking the time to share the long thing you're about to share.
Mm-hmm. More good stuff, I hope. Because this is about me.
It's about you? Oh, wow. Yeah, we got to make it super good if it's about you.
I'm worried, making sure he's not about to call me out on something bad here.
Yeah, I think Lizzie remembers every time I've ever said or
Yeah.
yelled at or anything. She can tell me, on this date, you yelled at me about this. And I'm like, will you ever just forget, please? It's so bad. I just want you to forget those things. I only want you to remember the good times, but it doesn't work like that with her brain.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she has a wonderful memory. Daniel remembers everything.
Does he? Yeah. I mean, Lizzie does too. And every time she was ever got in trouble, she tells me about, like it's today, and I'm like, that was like 10 years ago, Lizzie.
Yep. I've always known he's had a good memory, but I didn't know how good until he could do this.
Yeah. When he gets mad, will he share that with you? Will he yell at you on the...
Yeah, we've talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it.
Yeah.
Nice, Daniel. And sometimes talking about the bad stuff is hard, but I mean, it's just wonderful to be able to talk about it.
Well, and I bet it feels different when you see it in print, when something's in print and hearing it and seeing it, then it's like you have to stop and think, really.
You got it?
For the first time, just so many times I can give my mom the thanks she deserves, and that I love her and that she is wonderful and I owe her my life.
Oh my gosh. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Daniel.
I get thanked by Daniel on a regular basis. And as I have told him, I was just doing what moms do.
Yeah.
But I have two other members of this household that don't thank me quite as much.
I think you're the favorite.
So I just sort of tried to bask in the appreciation because he sure gives it freely.
Yeah. Well, and that's really nice for the other moms to hear, where their kids are not talking yet. They are hearing that, okay, your child is thankful. Your child recognizes that you're the one that caters to them and sees them, really understands and sees them, even though they can't say it. And I think, that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I've been thanked so many ways. And he's been able to tell both his dad, my husband, and his sister what they mean to him. And some of the things he's written to Olivia are just some of the most beautiful statements of love you can imagine.
Wow. That's incredible.
And what helped the most, you don't want to get too far ahead of the beginning, but books have been the biggest help. You got it, bud.
Well, maybe after he shares this next thought, we'll go back and talk about the beginning and see if we can kind of backtrack a little bit and share where he's come, because being completely nonverbal a year ago, right? So now being able to share every thought in his mind, having complex conversations, it's just insane. It's incredible. It's hopeful. And I want all the parents to see this with nonverbal kids, that it could happen, and it may not be like, I know there's people that say, well, if they're not talking by like 4 or 5, it's just not going to happen. And it's just not, it's just not true.
It is so not true.
Because we have a living, breathing, beautiful example in front of us of a boy that didn't get to talk till, was it 13 or 14?
14, really.
Yeah.
13, 14-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain a little more. But that's nice, Daniel. Very nice.
I love the gratitude, and just that he's so thankful for you. And that must feel amazing as a mom. Like, all those years, you just don't know if he even knows how much you love him, and he knew all the whole time. And I love that.
That's nice, Daniel. It's nice. It's nice.
For somebody that's nervous, you sure are talking up a storm, buddy. He's talking it away. Although I think when I get nervous, I talk a lot, so maybe that's it.
I do too.
You're doing so good.
Something funny. Are you gonna crack yourself up? Awesome. It's a big word.
Yeah, we need a little side thing where he can look up how to spell the big word.
Some of these big words you have to type several letters before they pop up on your screen.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. But it also shows you his determination and how important it is to be heard.
Sure. This is another big word. Julie can zone in on the screen, zoom in on the screen whenever. And just the whole shebang.
Here, let's see how it works. I don't know if I have to put it pretty much right over to show it. I hope that's okay.
Yeah. When you're all done, you get a back one up there.
Oh, wow. Challenging in conversation.
There you go. There's your S.
Yeah. I love it whenever we get to hear it, because it just feels so
beautiful.
For the first time, I can answer her questions and understand how she feels too, and have challenging conversations.
I love that, Daniel. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Daniel, I just want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and your time. And if you don't mind, I would love to talk with your mom a little more.
You got one more?
You got one more for us? See, now we're going to get you. And you won't, yep. You won't stop talking. You got a lot to say, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is your big point, Daniel.
Okay, we have a big point. We want to hear the big point.
I know he's got several, but I think, yeah.
And I love what you said before. Whenever it's so tempting to finish the sentence. Like you started to, and then you said, "Oh no, never mind. I know."
But
I know he doesn't like it when I finish his sentence.
No, well, because you talk for your child for years and years and years, and so you really have to take a step back from that.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you, dude. You can keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, you had it teaches patience, sure, right?
Oh yeah. Which I probably have a lot more of now than I used to, but I could still use more.
Yeah. Oh, I love it that he doesn't like you to finish it. Like he wants to get the wording out himself.
He's very much a perfectionist about it too.
I think
you got it, dude.
We don't like it when anyone finishes our sentences. We want to say the whole thing. We want to get out our thoughts, and I think that's fun. It's great.
I have hope for a good life.
Hope for a good life.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Which is really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and now we know what you can tell us what you want to do with your life, and we don't have to guess. And I think that's fantastic. Really, really fantastic.
Mm-hmm. 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 I think Julie's going to be pretty darn impressed, Daniel.
I'm already pretty darn impressed. Daniel, I mean...
Talk about a witness. You're a witness, because we really have not typed a whole lot outside the family. Yeah, you got it?
I think he's ready. He's ready to take on the world and do whatever you want to do. This is going to help so many other kids that their parents don't realize they're still in there to try this. I'm so thankful he's shared this.
You got it, Daniel. I'll see him hover over the period, because when you hit the period is when it talks.
Yeah.
So I'll see him hover over that period, and then he'll shake his head no, like...
I got more.
That's what you do all the time now.
I got more.
I think he's going to hit it, and then, no, I'm going to add a little more.
That's so funny. If this is what you can do when you're nervous, I want to see what you can do when you're not, because this is pretty impressive.
He has a wonderful vocabulary. Is that it? One more? He has an amazing vocabulary.
You said from reading, right?
Well,
books and...
my husband and I talk about it all the time, but, is this what happens when you can't do anything but listen for 14 years?
Oh.
You learn every single word that you hear, because you get so good at listening.
That's impressive to think that it's all just such a sponge. And he's just taking it all in, storing it all. And I just feel so grateful that now it can come out. I mean...
I have found that he has learned things from listening to the radio in my car, on the TV.
Yeah, you just think it's white noise behind you, but they're taking it all in.
Wow, Daniel. I'm liking this. Talk about some optimism, Daniel.
Darren Clark says, "Go Daniel." They're cheering for you, Daniel.
Something else? You know, I can see the wheels turning. So often when we're working, and I can tell when he has something that he wants to type that is going to be phenomenal, just from the look on his face. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's so impressive that he recognizes that this was the key to him having, you know, the good life. Like he said, I'm going to have a good life.
You got it?
I mean, no, there's more. You're doing great. So he hasn't typed out of the family. He just typed and talks to people in the family?
A little bit. Some friends in the family, a little bit. But not tons.
What about school?
Well, he's been out of school since October.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And I have to say that taking him out of school was the best decision I ever made for him.
Really?
By far.
Hmm.
And I wish that weren't the case. I wish that he was getting this at school. But no, taking him out of school was by far the best decision I made.
What was the final straw? What made you take him out?
Well, I'll tell you here. I think he's almost done. Uh-huh. Lovely, Daniel. Lovely.
Okay.
Life with you, purpose and meaning and happiness and amazing success and great times and help other people.
Life with purpose and meaning and happiness and amazing success and great times and help other people.
Thank you, Daniel. You are amazing. You are such a wonderful, wonderful young man. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to get to talk to you. And I'm really thankful just, to hear how excited he is. And for him, you are helping people right now just by sharing your story, and then with your mom sharing kind of your story too. So very, very thankful for that.
Got it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that really is pretty darn cool, Daniel. You got it.
And you can see what a wonderful cheerleader he has in his mom the whole way, cheering him on. I love that.
Yep.
That's our job.
You got it? You got it. When you've gone your whole life without being able to communicate with the world, and now you can, you got lots to say.
I believe it. I know he does. I can tell. It's so funny because he was like, I'm not sure I'm going to do this. And now he's like, I have things to say, people. Yeah.
You got it, bud. That's why with the blog, when he writes on the blog, you know, I try to act a little bit as an editor, but I really don't do much. So if there's a little something like I might say, you know, you might want to put this at the beginning or the end or whatever, but I don't change his words. I don't change his words at all. Because I feel like if you've gone 14 years you should be able to say whatever the heck you want to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the thought process, it's interesting when you hear the words in the order they're in, or
sometimes he puts words together in such a very interesting order.
Yeah, I found that with Lizzie too. It's she did some writing for a book we're working on, and she shared her story and about learning when she learned she had autism and what that meant for her life. And it was so eye-opening, but it was interesting to see the language. It was a little bit different than how I would have done it, but it's her words, and I don't want to mess with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I really don't want to change anything. And I, when I started blogging, about all this, I wanted to be sure he approved everything too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is important to me too that she is okay with me spreading and sharing about her life. And our kids have a say. This is their life, and if it's the internet, it doesn't go anywhere, and so it will be there when they're adults, and we have to remember that as we're sharing the different things and make sure it's okay to share it like that.
You got it, bud.
He's like, I'm not ever going to get off camera. I love this. You know what? I see this in your future. I see this. Yeah, you're going to have some more screen time, I'm pretty sure. Is it funny?
I'm not sure.
So is his sister patient, and does she do a good job communicating with him?
When she takes the time, yes. She's a very, very busy 12-year-old.
Yeah. Does he get frustrated with her?
Daniel thinks that Olivia is the bomb.
Yeah.
He recognizes that she can be an emotional adolescent at times, but he really thinks that his sister is the most amazing girl in the universe, and he tells her.
Oh.
And the fact that he's able to tell her now, I mean, talk about a change in a relationship. I mean, she's always been a good sister and a thoughtful sister, but when you're able to communicate with the person you love, you want to touch my tummy? Then nobody wants to see my tummy.
This is real life. This is real. This is how our lives are, Leah.
But
it doesn't need to be appropriate. We're fine.
You got it. Nobody wants to see my tummy. I'm like, you got it.
That's where you came from. My kids are always like, did I really come from that?
He likes my tummy and my neck too. Okay, you got it.
Is it like a calming source?
I think so.
Yeah.
Tummy's next. You got it? You good? Okay. Okay.
Oh, man.
Yes, you got it. But now he's able to tell Olivia how much she means to him. So,
helping kids like me to communicate and be happy and have a life worth living and be so much more happiness.
Oh, I love that.
Dana, let me talk. Can I talk to her about how we got started? And can she zoom in? I want her to just zoom in on that.
Yeah, let me just zoom in on everything he said to me today, which is so much.
What's cool is, when you want just you can take the letters away by pressing this button here. Oh. And then there's the whole thing that pops up there. So
that's what he told me before we started talking, was he was so nervous. And that he liked to ride his bike. And we were talking about a picture, and he said he was 10 years old. And then the rest is from when we've been talking. Oh, we were looking at pictures of cakes and candles. Mm-hmm. And then the reflections. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you. Do you want to can you wave bye or say bye to the camera?
Show off your face, dude.
It's all good. Thank you, Daniel.
Do you want to swing?
That sounds like a good break, right?
Or you can just sit here, too, while I talk, if you want.
I'd like to talk to you some more after we get done on the camera, if that's okay. Because I think this is very interesting.
I can hang out, Daniel, if you want, or you can swing. Either one, you decide. Do you want to sit here? Or
I mean, we'll flip the camera and I'll just come sit. Do you mind if I'm sitting in your master bedroom bed?
I don't care.
All right, I don't want Okay, hang on with us.
can
We're going to
correct
switch
me.
over to interview, and I'm going to climb on the bed.
Okay. And Daniel, you can correct me. What's over here?
Okay, there we go.
Here's me. Daniel, you can correct me if I say something that's not right.
Yes, okay. Let's see how this is going to work. All right.
You can go swing if you want, Daniel.
All right.
Or you can listen. Hi.
Okay, so I guess we're going to talk to the camera because we can't.
Okay.
If we looked at each other, we would have our faces right in each
Okay,
other.
okay.
So, thank you for sharing this with us, and thank you for allowing Daniel to be on camera. And I want to start at the very beginning because, I mean, I've known you a while, but I haven't known you well enough to know the ins and outs of your life. And the fact that Daniel is doing what he's doing now, and after 14 years of silence, basically. It's never really silent, but it's lack of words.
Right.
If you could just share kind of the beginning where, like, when he was diagnosed and what...
Right. Well, you know, we, like most families, we got the diagnosis pretty early. Daniel was 3, I think, when we technically got the diagnosis, but it was not a surprise. My husband is a physician and started worrying when Daniel was, before he turned 1. You know, very poor imitation skills. But a really, really happy kid. And so I tend to worry less, but my husband was really worried because we weren't getting the imitation, we weren't getting the words. And so Daniel's always been somewhat of a mystery to us. And we weren't exactly even sure how much he was taking in. I knew when he was little, you know, I could say, do you want a cookie? And he'd come running. You want a cracker? He'd come running. I could tell him no, and he would whine. But I wasn't sure if you started talking about things more complicated than that. Like, was there any concept of Santa Claus? I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So, I'd say about 3 years ago, maybe about 3. Everything's a blur. But a speech therapist that used to work with him, and really the only speech therapist that I think just got Daniel on a very high level, came out into the waiting room and said to me, so you know he can spell a lot of words, right? You know he can spell and read a lot of words. And I said, yeah, really? And it didn't totally surprise me because they always have known that there was a lot going on in his head. Yeah. But it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
And so she said, I think maybe you should really push typing. So we started at first with sort of a paper keyboard because, as she pointed out, he frequently would touch the letter right next to the one he wanted, or right above or right below the letter that he actually wanted. And she wasn't quite sure what was going on there. But it was clear that he knew how to spell words that were of high importance to him. Like you could say, what do we eat at...
come on, you can come
What
beyond
do we eat at
He's in.
What do we, you know, and you could tell he wanted to spell pancakes. But so many times we'd hit the O instead of the P or whatnot.
Yes.
And so she printed out an ABC keyboard with big squares, and then right above each square was the letter. So he could touch the A. Daniel, you got to sit, dude. But he could see the A above the A that he was touching. So that she thought that when he went to cover up the letter with his finger, that was bothering him. So she thought he needed to be able to see the letter while he was pushing it.
That makes sense.
And now he's told me since then that wasn't entirely true, but I do think it helped. I do think those paper keyboards with the letter above each square helped.
What did he say it was?
Just a lot of trouble focusing on the letters. Just a lot of trouble getting his eyes to focus. I think certain letters are harder to see depending on where they are. But I still think it helped. Yeah, quite a bit. And so we spent a lot of time just trying to spell words that are important to us, like ice cream and pizza and popsicle.
Just wants and needs.
And then we used our paper printout keyboard. We used wooden letters. We used stencils.
So
you name it.
Can we back up just a tiny bit? Tell me about his level of frustration before you started typing. I mean, he had no way to communicate, yet he was. You could tell he was taking things in, simple things, but you didn't realize how complex it was. And so then, I mean, what would he do out of frustration? Like, what was his?
Well, as any family who's riding that roller coaster of autism can tell you, I mean, it can be rough. Right, Daniel? Daniel, I need to set you up with like some popcorn. But it can be rough. And I mean, that starts when they're little. It starts when they're little. And then I think as the years went on, and it got more frustrating. And so,
meltdowns.
You have battle scars as a mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You really do. And then you have those moments where the frustration is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And then there's always a big sad moment afterwards, too. But, yeah, we had a lot of rough times. And the thing about Daniel is he's always been this kid who finds so much joy in life.
Yeah.
Swimming, bike riding, roller coasters, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always a joyful kid, an interesting kid.
Yeah.
But then in those moments where I could not figure out what it was that he wanted, and it was something so important to him, then, it was ugly. It was really, really ugly.
He wanted it. You couldn't tell what meltdown.
And it got worse as adolescence hit. And I think part of it was hormones, but also part of it was, as he once told me, in his words, I was starting to give up that anyone would ever know that I'm smart. And so, you just start to get a little angry with the world, and I can't blame him for that a bit.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how hard that must be. And so, had you kind of given up? Like, okay, we're just never going to talk?
You go back and forth as a mom. Because, I always knew he was being sold short.
Yeah.
I always knew that there was, the kid's always been able to figure out stuff. I'll say this to moms. If you see that your child is paying attention to the world and you feel like your school district is shortchanging him, then you're right. The odds are that they're grossly shortchanging him. The school district failed Daniel abysmally in making assumptions about him.
Well, and I think, too, just the fact that, okay, they can't perform the way school is set up now. That does not mean they do not have intelligence.
Yeah.
That does not mean they do not have the ability to learn and give to the world. It's just going to be different. It's going to be different in the way they learn.
Daniel.
You are his person.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he loves you.
And one of the things that the school district did that annoyed me is they wasted so much time trying to get Daniel to point. They tried to test what he understood over and over again in the most simplistic ways. And what Daniel has told me recently is that pointing is very, very, very hard, because once you start putting the array of pictures on the table, once you put more than a couple of pictures down there, he starts to get overwhelmed, and it becomes hard for him to focus, and his head actually starts to hurt.
Interesting.
So they were constantly putting the pictures down. Show me the cat, show me the ball, show me the dog, show me the pizza or whatever. And I would say to them year after year, but I know he knows what pizza is, and I know he knows what a ball is, and I know he knows what a dog is. And so why are we still doing this? Why are we still doing this?
And why are we doing it with pictures when he does it already in real life?
And
he knows it. Yeah.
And they couldn't move on from that. And I think lots of times school districts get stuck in a rut and a pattern, and that definitely helped that happen with Daniel. They got very, very stuck. And what he needed, and as I said every year, he needed an effective system of communication. That's what he needed. So why are we wasting time on goals that are more academic in nature? Why are we wasting time on goals that are linked to a STAR exam that is not relevant to his life? His whole day should be about learning to communicate. If my child can't tell me that his stomach hurts, then until he can, nothing you do at school is going to matter.
That's so true.
So we started this typing, and it was just constant with the, what do we do at a restaurant? Tell me an animal that swims. All these questions, trying to get him to spell the answers. And I will say that there were times where I thought, should I just give up? Because he could get so frustrated trying to focus on those letters.
So when he was trying to type at first, he would get super
very
frustrated.
Okay. Very, 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 very
So
frustrated.
for a parent that they think, oh, I've tried typing and he hated it, that's not necessarily true.
Right. And for a long time, we got stuck when we used Proloquo. And for a long time, we just got stuck on pushing those buttons of our favorite things. What's the lingo? Your
preferred items or whatever in Autism Land. And so, he'd come up and tell me 10 times a day that he wants macaroni and cheese. But, you want more than that. Your kid needs to be able to
What
do
he
more
wants
than
is
that.
to say more too, probably.
Right.
But he was stuck, right?
Right.
And so how did you get him to move? You changed programs, or what? How'd you get him to...
we sort of was an ebb and flow of me push and then back off and push and back off. And they would push, and I could see that he could spell. But then there'd be this moment where he would get so frustrated and upset with me, and then I would back off. And then last summer, my mom died. And I wasn't even sure how much Daniel was processing about it all. And it was an unexpected death. And the week that she died, the days following her death, I took out the keyboard on the iPad and I said, Daniel, I need to know that you understand what's happening here. How are you feeling? Sad. Tell me why. Graham. Yes, what about Graham? Graham died. And he was so focused and so calm. And I thought to myself, okay, he can do this. And not only can he do this, but he really, really needs to do this.
Right.
And he was able to spell the word funeral after her funeral. I mean, he said to him, why are we in church today? I spent so much time just quizzing him, trying to figure out what he knew. So that was last summer. And then we started school in the fall. And
it was so interesting that something that was so tragic, like with your mom dying, brought out this new, beautiful thing.
I think it was a light bulb moment for both of us. Because I realized that, he was communicating about his feelings. He wasn't typing pizza, but he was typing sad. Yeah. And he typed want Graham back. And it's a big difference between typing ice cream and then typing about how sad you're feeling and your grief.
Yeah.
And I think it was a light bulb moment for him that he thought, this is my way to tell my mom how I'm feeling.
Wow. So
we went to school in the fall, and I tried to kind of get them on board with this process, but that was not successful.
Oh.
And school was going rough. And then one of our biggest problems was gym, and I kept suggesting to the school district that, hey, why does he really need to go to gym?
Yeah.
When I should have just said, he's not going to gym.
Yeah.
But his last day of school, he was going to gym and just really had a meltdown. And when he got home that night, he was able to type with me about it in such great detail. He gave me more details than what the school district gave me.
Interesting.
And I said, okay, we're done with school. We're done with school. And so I just wasn't sure what I was doing, but from that point forward, every morning we got up, and it was, okay, Daniel, if you want it, type it, you'll get it. So you want a cookie, type it. You want a popsicle, type it. Type it, you get it. You got it. It's yours. And then I started with books, and we just read. And at first I started with very simple books. And so it was, what did Biscuit want? And what did the girl play with? What did the boys eat? Very, very simple questions. And it was, time consuming and slow going because the typing was still new. But he could answer. When given the time, he could answer every single question. So I started to ask him questions about like motivation. Why did the dog do this? Why did the girl go there? And then he could answer those.
Wow.
And
I mean, that's inferencing.
Right.
That's tough.
So then I thought, holy smokes, we need harder books. So I went to my daughter's room and started to get chapter books. And we just finished reading, so that was October. November is probably when I really started to hit the chapter books. We started with Ralph the Mouse, Beverly Cleary. And he could answer, what does the mouse, what is he riding? Motorcycle. Why does he like it? He goes fast. Why does he like it when the kids go to the motel? They're messy. So all these questions, everything he could answer. But it was still very question. Everything's prompted for months. Everything was prompted. And I remember the first time he told me something personal about himself that he didn't know, and that was reading about Ralph the Mouse. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, the mouse was talking about how he loved the smell of peanut butter. Mm-hmm. And he said, so Daniel, can you tell me a smell that you love? And he typed oranges. Oh, and wow. I was like, wow.
Like you know something about your son.
That is so cool. He did not know that you love the smell of oranges. That's awesome. And it was the first time he was ever able to share something personal with me.
That's
and now we've gone from that. And that was probably November. And now,
as you've seen, now he can't stop. What is it? It's summer of the next year. So that's like 6 months, 8 months.
Right. And he tells me...
I mean, he's telling you, thank you, I'm going to have a good life now. Mm-hmm. And I think the most beautiful thing is just that he recognized all you did for him. And to give, even if someone's child never, ever speaks, never finds a way, they do know. They're in there and they know what you're doing for them as a mom. Because I think that is one of the hardest things. I mean, before Lizzie could talk, just... does she even really recognize? Does she care? Am I different than someone else to her? You know, or is she just using me to get what I need, what she needs? And that's just not the case, you know.
Yeah, I really question now all kinds of things that are the standard beliefs about autism, and of course there's so much that we don't know. But now that I'm able to see inside Daniel's mind, he has a great deal of empathy, a great deal of sympathy and concern. And also compassion about the world.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of think that we sell people with autism a little too short with our preconceived notions about what it is.
I mean, I agree. And I think we sell them short on what they're capable of doing in our world. Because I think we need to listen and we need to open our minds to what they may have to say and then figure out a way to help them fit in that can benefit society, because I think that they want to do that. I mean, they want to be here for the world.
I didn't know.
But I think the other thing I'd like to point out to parents is that, okay, he's speaking beautifully. He's sharing deep, deep thoughts, but we still have sensory issues.
Oh, yeah. We always have autism, and
and
so I'm real careful, because when you're a parent of a kid that's been, you know, diagnosed as severely autistic, and then you see all the stories about people with autism who are going to medical school or whatnot, and you know how hard, I know how hard that is to be on the other end of that and think, oh, why not my kid? Why not my kid? And so even today, as I talk about Daniel's progress, and it is amazing, you know, I try to be cognizant of the fact that there's still a lot of parents out there that are worried that it will not happen for them. And as this was happening in our house for the longest time, I wasn't totally sure it was happening, because I would call my husband on the phone every day and say, is this really happening? I think this is really happening. And he was the first one, even. Yeah. My husband, who's so much more cynical than I, who said, he's doing this, Leah. And I'd say, but I'm helping him, because I did help him. I should back up and say that as he was starting to type, I would sound out the next letter oftentimes. When I'd make the next sound, or I would say 3 more letters. Okay, 2 more. Okay, 1 more. Or I'd say, look up higher, look down a little bit. I would lean forward. I was very much involved. And so I was giving him lots of hints and
you
lots
were worried
of
it
prompts.
was your words, not his.
And I was worried that I was giving him too many prompts, or somehow he was looking at my eye, following my eyes and looking at them. I didn't hold the keypad ever. I didn't move his hand around or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I gave him lots of prompts.
Okay.
And my husband would say, you're not really giving him that much help, Leah. He's doing this. He's really, really doing this. And then at some point, I said, yeah.
Well, I mean, we could clearly see. I love that we got to show so much, because you could clearly see this is all what's in his mind. You're not guiding it. You're not, you know, you guys have talked about the conversation before, but that's it. And like you would with any kid that you were, I mean, it's so brave. So this is so much to kind of chew on, I think, for parents, because I think it offers hope, and I think every parent, you know, hopefully will keep the hope that their child may be able to do it through typing, and even if you've tried, to take smaller steps and to not get discouraged when it doesn't work right away, because it's not I guess whenever I heard what had happened, I didn't realize that it was a little bit of a process. And so you had to be very...
Quite a process.
Yeah, you had to be very diligent in not giving up. And so it's amazing.
It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Pretty much literally.
Yeah. I mean, oh my goodness.
So I mean, it was rough. It was really rough. But now that we're here, and I mean, we still have our rough moments. We might get upset about something, and if he is really, really upset about something, he cannot type until he has calmed down. He needs to calm down. But the difference is now is that he can go back and tell me what's bothering him, exactly what's wrong. And sometimes it's something you would have never guessed. Yeah. And that's a lot of times where the autism comes in. Because, we have sensory issues and a lot of OCD type issues. And we like for our routine to be in place and all these things. But the biggest thing, I would say, him being able to communicate with me is huge. But also just knowing that he is understanding everything I'm saying to him.
Yeah, and you're 100% sure because he tells you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I spent months sort of just quizzing that, and there was a moment we read Charlotte's Web after the Ralph the Mouse. We read Charlotte's Web, and I was starting to feel like Daniel had an amazing memory and an amazing vocabulary, and I said to him when we got to the part about the goose. Sitting on her eggs, and she's talking to everybody about how long she has to sit on her eggs before they'll hatch. And I said, so hey Daniel, you remember last month one day when we were riding by the cows, because we have a pasture down the road, and I was talking to Olivia about the baby calves, and we started talking about how long different animals have to stay inside their mom before they're born? And he nodded, and he said, you remember what that's called? And he typed gestation.
Wow.
And
I mean,
said,
that's a huge...
that was probably a month after I'd taken him out of school.
It's incredible.
Or 6 weeks, something like that. I said, gestation what? He typed period, and we had a big conversation about that, about how elephants have a very long one, and how long are human babies, and he remembered every single detail from the conversation. So your kids are listening. I mean, I wasn't sure. And like you said, there's no telling how many things I said in front of him that I should not have said.
I felt the same way when Lizzie started talking.
But he was listening.
Yeah, I mean, and just the thought process of, oh my goodness, they're taking all this in. And they don't have to appear to be taking it in. That's
exactly.
Like Lizzie used to sit at church, and she would literally sit backwards to the front, but she was still getting it all. And I thought, after I figured that out, I just didn't make her turn around anymore, because I'm like, well, what's the point?
Right.
Like, she's hearing it, and this is more comfortable. So
a blanket over the head for Daniel.
Or a blanket. Why are we pushing all the in the box situation when it doesn't even apply? She's still hearing. She's still taking it in. Well, you're so brave to share this, and you're also, your intuition is incredible, and the way you followed through and you picked up on what he was doing, and you kept going, and you were persistent, and look at him. I mean, look at what you have now. It's incredible.
It's over there heavy breathing like he's on an obstacle call.
Look what you have. Look how great.
But that's what we do when we get really excited.
You know what? I mean, but he can tell you about it. And that's the thing. So if you have one last little piece of advice to any mom that was kind of, picture the mom that has a kid that's 12, 13 years old, never a word out of their mouth, and they're devastated. What do you want to say to them?
I would say that it was a really tough process getting here. But if you have a gut feeling that your child knows a lot of stuff and is inquisitive and is paying attention to the world, although it might be in a different way than all these other kids around you. If your child is studying the water fountain, the waterfalls, if he is studying the way light comes through a window, if you see that your child is paying attention to the world and you feel like your child's being shortchanged, then you're right. And it's a different type of brain and a different type of seeing the world in a different way of doing things.
Just give me a kiss. I love you. Thank you.
But if you can find something that's motivating for your kid in that typing process, I mean, Daniel could do it. It was really, really tough at the beginning, so I don't want anyone to think that we just sat down and started typing.
Yeah, I mean, just stay with it.
Really
stay with it, because
tough.
if he couldn't type at the beginning, but you tried several different ways and over a period of months. So
yeah, it was really hard, but it can be done.
It can be done.
If you have even the slightest feeling that your kid can do it,
then
your kid can do it. And I'm really starting to think that all of our kids can do it, really. I just think there's too many of them are being shortchanged.
Yeah, I just think we have to keep trying and coming at it from different angles and different views and different ways to find a way. So, well, thank you again, and I'm going to let Daniel say bye. Daniel?
And tell everybody about his blog, too.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to put both of their blogs down below in the comments, so definitely check both of them out. Daniel, you get to talk to everyone all the time from now on, so you're going to blog, okay? And everyone's going to listen to your thoughts. Okay. All right. Thank you.